This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. The internet is responsible for a lot of great things. You know, a lot of amazing things are possible today because of the internet. Like, think about how much more accessible, detailed information about a sport like football is now versus what it was 30 years ago. Like, think about it like, if you wanted to know 20 years ago what the end man of the line of scrimmage is, you would have had to play football. Like, you would have just had to have learned that by playing college level football. The access to information has been amazing. You can learn more than you ever imagined about more things quicker than you could have ever imagined it. So I'm not here to say that the internet is terrible, but if we're all being honest, the one thing the internet has provided us is a lot, and I mean a lot of hatred. Hatred goes further now for less than in any time and in human history, right? It takes less for you to get treated like a villain on the internet these days than in any other time period in human history. I fully believe that. And that has certainly been something that trickles to our sports. Certainly, athletes are getting hated on at extreme levels that we've never really seen before. One bad season can turn a player who was beloved into a player that's hated. You don't even have to play bad. Just play good in a way that people don't find aesthetically pleasing. And you could be at the center of an organized hate campaign. The internet has become really bad with that. And one of the things I want to talk about in today's video, the main topic of today's video, are Browns players who are overhated. Now, when I say overhated, I don't mean that that player's good, but fans treat him bad. I mean that, yeah, this player has definitely done things that make people not the biggest fan of that player. But the amount of hatred that this player has received is completely outsized to what they have actually done. Like, that's what overhated means. Some of you guys are going to agree with some of the players that I'm saying. Some of you guys are going to hear a player that I say. You're going to get, all that hatred, built up on the internet and feel like there's nothing nice you can ever say about any player. But that's what we're going to talk about. I got 4 players on the Browns roster who I think are overhated at various levels and for various reasons. But before I get into that, I got to thank my sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a fun way to earn cash while you watch your favorite teams. No complex betting rules, just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Here are my picks for this upcoming season, AFC North edition. Jimmy Bernard, I have less than 475. This has to do with volume available in Pittsburgh's offense. Quincy Judkins, I have over 975. Browns improved line. I think the run game is going to be better with it. Chase Brown, under 900 yards. Joe Burrow equals less rushing yards usually for the Bengals offense. Mark Andrews, more than 475 yards. Lamar's going to need a safety blanket. Check to see if PrizePicks is available in your state. You could follow me on the app at Quinn_C to see all my lineups. Download the PrizePicks app today. Play $5 and get $50 in lineup to download the app using the link in the description. All right, you already know who number one's going to be on this list. Let's talk about it. Dillon Gabriel. Y'all hate Dillon Gabriel more than y'all have any reason to hate Dillon Gabriel. Is Dillon Gabriel a good quarterback? No. Did Dillon Gabriel deserve the amount of hate that he gets even to this day? Absolutely not. Most people who hate Dillon Gabriel are upset at other things that have nothing to do with Dillon Gabriel. You're upset at Shedor's draft slide. You're upset that Shedor didn't get the starting job out of camp. You're mad at Kevin Stefanski. Maybe you're mad at Andrew Berry. But none of this shit really has anything to do with Dillon Gabriel other than the fact that he's the guy that teams have made a decision on, right? Like, that's really it. I know people try to blow some of his quotes out of proportion, It's so stupid. Like the whole when he said there's performers and playmakers, people acting like that was some kind of targeted line towards Shador. It wasn't. I don't care how much you've twisted it in your head to make it think like that. It's not. He's like, people treat this guy almost as bad as Browns fans treat Deshaun Watson. Now, Deshaun Watson won't be on this list because ultimately Deshaun Watson is not overhated, right? Deshaun Watson is not treated well by Browns fans, but I think there are a lot of good reasons on why that is the case. You know what I mean? And almost all of those reasons are related to Deshaun Watson himself. It's not really somebody that I think is overhated. But Dylan Gabriel getting a similar amount of hate, getting booed at the same rate that Deshaun Watson has, when Dylan Gabriel is not somebody who's embarrassed this team off the field, when Dylan Gabriel is nothing but a mediocre quarterback. That's all he's ever done, is play quarterback just as bad as every other quarterback has here over the last few years. That's really it. He just didn't play quarterback that well. And for him to get the treatment that he does, for him to be subject to all of this, it's just stupid. Leave that boy alone, right? We can make our short jokes. We can make our jokes about how Dylan Gabriel's not good at football. All of this stuff is fair game, right? But going to the point to where we're like booing the sight of Dylan Gabriel, that's where it just kind of feels like we're bullying him, right? Like, it don't feel right at that point. And like, I'm not gonna lie, there's something about the internet and like getting really charged up over short quarterbacks. Like, the internet hates a short quarterback, because the only quarterback I've ever seen get similar treatment to him is PJ Walker. Because when PJ was here, everybody was insistent on telling me that that was the worst quarterback that they've ever seen, despite the fact that he won 2 football games with the Cleveland Browns. And I know from watching the Cleveland Browns my entire life that PJ Walker is certainly not the worst quarterback I've ever seen. And people try to make that argument with Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel is not even close to the worst quarterback I've ever seen in a Browns uniform, let alone in the NFL. But yeah, something about short quarterbacks really gets people charged up. Like it don't feel like jokes, right? Like when people start mentioning Dylan Gabriel's height, they start calling him certain names that you really shouldn't just be throwing out when it comes to short people. It be feeling a little bit different, when they be getting mad about his height and all that. And it makes me wonder, like, how tall are some of these people who get really mad at how short Dylan Gabriel is? It's kind of insane. But yeah, the second you saw this video topic, you knew that Dylan Gabriel was going to be on this list. He is the most overhated Brown of all time, man. Like, the amount of vitriol this dude has, and he has not hurt this team in any significant way, shape, or form, it is ridiculous. And there will be people who still justify it in the comments, talk about he played 3 bad games. Like, relax, dude. We've watched this team for 25 plus years and they haven't had good quarterback play. This is the dude that you're getting charged up about? It don't make no sense. Especially, he didn't even play that long. He played like 5 games. Everybody that's charged up. Meanwhile, I got to hear how 19 games isn't enough of a sample to judge Deshaun Watson because you don't like his coach, or how 7 games is not enough to have an opinion about Shador Sanders' pro career so far. It's ridiculous. No, Dylan Gabriel's not good at football. No, I don't wish to see Dylan Gabriel start more games for the Cleveland Browns. But I'm also not going to go to Cleveland Browns Stadium and boo Dylan Gabriel. Because why? All right, the next player is KT Leviston. Now, he's kind of had a little bit of a renaissance. I think people are buying into the idea of him as a starting, guard or a good rotational guard for the Browns offensive line. But, when KT Leviston had to play left tackle, I felt so bad for the guy because he was put in a pretty shitty situation by the Browns roster and the Browns coaches. You know, he really should have never been playing left tackle full time for this team, but unfortunately for him, he was put in a situation where he had to. Yeah, like I feel like KT Leviston got hated on because he was a really bad left tackle, but I'm gonna be honest, he should have never been in that situation to begin with. Like, he's a talented player who might be able to be useful in one way or another for an NFL team, but having him play left tackle for as long as he had to last year was kind of more reflective of a failure of Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski's ability to reload the offensive line over the last couple of years, and not really a reflector of the kind of effort that KT Leviston was getting out there, right? There are some times where players get booed and it's deserved, or players get hated on and it's deserved, right? When you commit rather embarrassing crimes off the field and you associate the team with very disgusting things, allegedly, that's going to be a situation where people aren't going to be really happy with you, and I can't really blame them for that, right? When you're paid a ton of money and you underperform, or if you're paid a ton of money, have high expectations, and there's legitimate reason to believe that you aren't really playing your hardest, right? Like, those are situations where I'm like, okay, I can understand why people are upset at this player at an abnormal rate. But KT Leviston doesn't fit that description. He's a minimum contract player, and he's given his best effort. He's just not that good, right? It's similar to Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel's working hard for the team. He's doing what he can. He's just not that good. KT Leviston, I think, is just put in this bad situation. I think he can be a guard, but we'll see. I think in a better situation, you don't notice KT Leviston enough to hate him. So that's kind of my 2 cents there. All right, this is going to be a brief one. Jerry Judy. I talked about him a ton in my underrated video. I pretty much covered the Jerry Judy situation, but yeah, he's slightly overhated at this point. I would say he's a less extreme case of this than certainly Dillon Gabriel. Like, he's more on the fringes. There's good reason to not be the biggest fan of Jerry Judy. He does handle the media in a way that can be rather frustrating. He does tend to let fan sentiment get under his skin a bit too much. And he did underperform greatly last year. But also, I think that we're being too reactionary to one bad year for a guy on an offense that, for a lot of different reasons, a lot of players had bad years on. So certainly you think that Jerry Judy had a bad year, was dropping passes a lot, certainly deserves some of the negative dialogue that went his way last year. Not going to debate that at all. I contributed to it. But, to the point to where people want to talk about like trading Jerry Judy or just like outright getting rid of him, or he's not worth a roster spot anymore. That's where I'm like, all right, guys, he did have 1,200 yards like a year ago. We don't got to go all the way here. So yeah, Jerry Judy's a tough case. He does things that make it rough to root for Jerry Judy, but ultimately he had one good year, one bad year. Let's see what year 3 is like, right? Let's give him that opportunity. The next guy is Cedric Tilman. Again, another borderline case here. Fortunately for the Browns, they have not been high profile enough to have a bunch of players who are like overhated. And that's because they haven't been good. But at least we're not in a place where like the fan base hates 50% of the roster, because I've certainly seen that before. So Cedric Tilman, he's somebody that I think a lot of people have given up on. His availability has been a curse for him. I do think that people get to a point of Cedric Tilman hate to where they like want the Browns again to like cut him. I think people have given up on the idea that Cedric Tilman can be a productive player on this team, or at least a useful player on this team. And I think that's a bit ridiculous. When Cedric Tilman has been healthy, he's been useful. Even in stuff that you don't really get stats for, like he's been a really good blocker on the perimeter for the Cleveland Browns for a team that lacks that at the wide receiver position. I know the arrival of Denzel Boston kind of made a lot of people go, okay, we got our big guy, so now we can get rid of our other big guy in Cedric Tilman, but I don't think that there's a limit on how many big receivers you can have in a wide receiver room, and I see no reason why they can't have more than one. Cedric Tilman, I think people need to give him a chance to be productive for this team this year. It's not going to be what we wanted, right? The 800, 900-yard receiver that we hoped he become. It's not going to be that with Cedric Tilman, but there is still a decent amount of hope there that Cedric Tilman can become useful for you as a 4th or 5th or 6th wide receiver. And now that he's not in a role where he's like the number 1 or 2 guy like they wanted him to be the last couple of years, maybe his inconsistency and his availability being iffy bothers fans a lot less now that he's not in such a primary role. But that's my list of overhated players. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. As always, y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.